listeners and viewers, we are starting at 8:15 because we have been in a review meeting from 7:30 this morning to reflect on what we have done so far and what is left ahead of us. I will invite the clerk to lead us in prayer. Thereafter, we have the following nominees lined up: Ali Hassan Joho, Alfred Nganga Mtua, Wycliffe Ambetsa Obaranya, Justin Beta Njoga Mturi, and Sheila Soy Langat. All those are nominees in various cabinet positions. Clerk.
Right Honorable Speaker, our Deputy Speaker, the leadership of Majority Minority Party, honorable members of the Committee on Appointments, distinguished colleagues, may I request that we bow for a word of prayer. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of the important trust in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare. Amen.
Members, take your seats. Sergeant, you may bring in the first nominee. Take your seat. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
You are, for the record, Hassan Ali Joho, EGH.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You will appear before this committee and you are going to answer to the questions that we put to you on oath. So you opt to take the oath either on the Holy Quran, the Holy Bible, or the Holy Gita, the Hindu Holy Book.
The Holy Quran.
You may be upstanding. Take the Holy Quran in your right hand and recite the oath.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I, Hassan Ali Joho, do swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee on matter under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
I'm told it's not caught on record. Get the... Yes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I, Hassan Ali Joho, do swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee on the matter under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
You may take your seat and sign to the oath. Next to that, nominee, hand your original documents to the sergeant to pass on to the clerk for verification against what we have on you. We'll start with introductions. This is a committee on appointments of the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya. Committee mandated to interview, in some jurisdictions called approval hearings, in others called vetting, to assess your suitability or otherwise to occupy office to which His Excellency the President has nominated you as Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy, and Maritime Affairs. We'll start with introductions. Yours truly here is the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chairman of the committee. On my right is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Gladys Boss. On my left is the Clerk of the National Assembly, Samuel Njoroge. I'll invite members to introduce themselves, starting with Honorable Naisula.
Naisula Lesuda, MP Samburu West.
Kimani Shongo.
Junet Mohammed.
Nelson Koech, Belgut.
David Kosing, MP Poko South.
Gikaria David, Nakuru Town East.
Masemeri, Teso South.
Abdul Rahim Daoud, North Imenti Meru County.
George Gitonga Murugara, MP Tharaka, Tharaka Nithi County.
Owen Baya, Kilifi North.
Robert Mbui Kadhiani.
Stephen Mule, MP Matungulu.
Dido Raso, MP Saku.
Abdi Shurie, MP Balambala.
Mishimboko, MP Likoni.
Rehab Mukami, Nyeri County.
Caleb Amisi, Saboti.
For purposes of these proceedings, you will be referred to as nominee. So every member asking questions will address you as nominee, and that's what you are before us. So we'll start in earnest by asking you to tell us your name, your educational background, your work experience, and your key competencies that make you suitable for appointment as Cabinet Secretary. You have under 5 minutes to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, it is indeed a great honor to be in this House. Mr. Speaker, even though I must confess that I was used so much being on the other side when I was a Member of Parliament with you in the 10th Parliament. But Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the favor upon me. And also thank His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto, for nominating me for the position of Cabinet Secretary, Mining, Blue Economy, and Maritime Affairs. Mr. Speaker, my name is Hassan Ali Joho. I was born and raised in Mombasa. I went to Tomboya Primary School in Mombasa, and later Serani Secondary School in Mombasa. So, Mr. Speaker, I have a bit of a different approach on how I want to present my introduction, because I started work and then further education came later. So after I finished secondary school, I ventured into business, entrepreneurship. I set up a clearing and forwarding company in Mombasa, then later diversified to opportunities in fintech, a bit of real estate, and largely logistics. Mr. Speaker, that takes about up to 2004, where I started my grassroots engagement. I ran in a by-election that was not very successful, but taught me many lessons. I became the chairman of LDP in Kisauni constituency. Then in 2006, I embarked on a journey to acquire my first degree. So in 2006, I did a bridging course to enable me to join university teachings. I did a diploma in 2007 and eventually graduated from Kampala University in 2013. Thereafter, Mr. Speaker, I did another degree from Gretsa University. And then I enrolled myself. Gretsa University is in Thika, in Kiambu County. Thereafter, I enrolled in Harvard Kennedy School of Government for a program known as Public Leadership Credentials, which is basically a pathway to attain mid-career master's degree on public administration. Mr. Speaker, I am the pioneer governor of Mombasa. I got elected in 2013. But before that, I was a member of parliament for Kisauni, the 10th parliament, where I served in different committees. I served in the Committee of Foreign Relations, Defense and Foreign Relations, which I was a vice chairman, and several others. I served as an assistant minister for transport during the Kibaki administration. I was governor for one term and another. So I served my 2 terms as governor of Mombasa, where I must say I drew a lot of experience in matters governance and transformational ways of doing business in government, Mr. Speaker. And the record speaks for itself of what I was able to achieve in Mombasa. In matters health, in matters basic infrastructure, in matters early childhood, and obviously lots of social programs that would cushion vulnerable families from the day-to-day challenges of our lives. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'll now invite the Deputy Speaker to be the first to ask you a question. And like I said, answers must be concise, precise, and to the point.
Honorable Joho, the nominee before us, you're nominated to be the Minister or the Cabinet Secretary for Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. And what Kenyans would like to know is that what do you see as the most pressing issues facing the Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs that ought to be addressed immediately? And so if Parliament approves you, how do you plan to tackle the issues, considering the fact that the blue economy, if properly used, has the potential to, it's been said, has the potential to inject up to $4.8 billion into Kenya's economy and create over 50,000 jobs. So let's get your vision of what you do if approved by this House. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I must say that after I was nominated by the President, I took a little bit more time to do some research. And I want to state before this honorable committee how I see mining and blue economy and even maritime affairs. Probably that should be our focus. It actually should be our new economic frontier. Mr. Speaker, I saw, for example, that the mining industry contributes slightly under 1% of our GDP. So that led me to do some quick research that leads me to tell you what I think we should do. Mr. Speaker, we have to find, first of all, ways to generate confidence to investors and the Kenyan people. Mr. Speaker, I want, if you nominate me, if you approve me, I want to be a CS that listens. I want to listen. And I have learned that if you take time and listen to stakeholders, there's a lot of information and data that will enable you to make the right policy decisions, create legal frameworks that are responsive to the demands of the moment and attractive to investment. So what will I do first? Listen. 2, involve stakeholders. 3, do an audit of our HR capacity. We do our technological capacity audit and relook at our legal frameworks and our policies. Are they attractive to investment? And if they are not, I must embark quickly on coming up with the proposals and policies that do respond. Because, Mr. Speaker, there is absolutely no way that our neighboring countries have surpassed by far the 10% mark on GDP contribution. Yet there is a lot of, I want to call it speculation for now, because I don't have the data, neither do I have the real information of the kind of geological minerals that this country have. And I'm looking forward, if I get approved, to get the real data. So there are certain quick things that we must do to ensure that Kenya becomes an attractive point of investment, particularly in the area of mining, blue economy, and maritime affairs, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. CS nominee, let me begin by asking from your academic credentials that clearly looking at them bottom up. And having said how you began your journey for getting your degrees all the way to Harvard Kennedy, it's Kennedy what? Kennedy School of Government.
School of Government.
What would you tell young Kenyans who may have started off life like you in terms of being able to pursue academic credentials later in life? That would be 1. 2, you come from a region where the blue economy, as you say, holds very huge potential to create employment. And I'm sure probably from your research you may have known that there have been efforts by the government since 2015, 2016 to try and get Kenyans to work in the Caribbean, but have had problems accessing visas to travel through the US. What will you do as Cabinet Secretary to ensure, 1, that we are able to train as many young people to work in the maritime industry, because there is a very huge potential, as you say, to create jobs in that industry? What will you do to help Kenyans, 1, train, 2, access jobs even outside the country? The other question would relate to the mining docket. There is a lot of unregulated and unlicensed and what would be tantamount to illegal mining around the country. What will you do as CS to ensure, 1, that any player who is in the mining industry in Kenya is licensed and regulated? And that also involves things like quarries. You've seen the recent cases in Nairobi, in quarry here in Embakasi, where abandoned quarries are left unfilled. They have now become graveyards for criminals. They are dump sites. What will you do to make sure that anybody who is involved, even in quarrying, is 1, taking care of the environment, especially in getting to refill many of these quarries, and that industry is well regulated and anybody and everybody engaged in it is licensed?
Nominee.
Mr. Speaker, I would have been completely surprised if I was not asked the question of education.
Yes, Jeanette. Okay.
Let me add something.
We can, no, go on and ask your question.
Oh, okay.
Take those two.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the nominee 2 questions. The first one, Mr. Speaker, just to add to what the majority leaders asked, this issue of the education background. Mr. Speaker, I think the nominee needs to, he has alluded to that now he's in the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. We want to ask him to clear this matter because this matter, it comes up during elections and goes down after elections. It comes up during elections, goes away after elections, you win the election. We want to slay that ghost today here. Can you share with us from the beginning to the end how it went? And my second question is that where I come from, Lake Victoria is next to it. What do you think what will you do as the Minister for Maritime to improve the lives of the people there in terms of fish industry? The fishing industry is almost collapsing. What programs do you think you will put in place to make sure that livelihoods are supported there by the people who are doing the fishing business or fishing in the Lake Victoria area?
Chair, maybe since he had begun answering that one on academic credentials, besides what you would say CS nominee to young Kenyans, and from what Junet is saying, it's clear that many people who serve in public office suffer certain prejudices from Kenyans regarding the academic credentials and all that in your past. Probably you can contextualize that in that. I am certain there are many Kenyans who are surprised that you can even converse in English. There are many who are asking how you would be able to be vetted.
I understand.
You cannot converse in English.
I understand, Mr. Speaker, and I must first of all say it is almost normal for people to cast doubt of Wapwanis. Sometimes, and Owen Bai and Mishi Mboko probably will bear me witness. But we can and we are as qualified as any other Kenyan. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to walk you through my educational journey and where I drew my inspiration.
More than what you did?
No. To respond to the question,
okay.
I want to walk you through how I achieved what I achieved and I'll continue to achieve.
With brevity.
Without a doubt. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to mention that I drew my inspiration from one Professor Ali Mazrui. Professor Ali Mazrui did not succeed in his Cambridge examination to be admitted in the university to attain his first degree. That aside, Mr. Speaker, I want to mention to this House.
Ali Mazrui is one of the most renowned
scholar
and admirable scholars.
We love him. He's one of our own from the coastal
region. He's not just the coastals. I love him even more. I named one of my kids.
You must.
I named one of my brothers Mazrui.
Mr. Speaker, there is absolutely no way you cannot love Ali Mazrui, given his contribution to basically the general well-being of our society. But Mr. Speaker, this is the point. I want Kenyans to know that historical struggles are real. Are real. Someone should never imagine for a minute that if they come from places or spaces of comfort, that there may be a level playing field for everyone. Some of us come from very poor background. Mr. Speaker, if you look at my CV, you will see I actually had to take a break for 1 year, transiting from primary into secondary. Why did I do that? Because simply my parents couldn't afford school fees. I was not living in an environment that allowed me that opportunity to be able to quickly prosper in matters of education. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I can tell this committee today, and I want many Kenyans to listen to me. Do not ever imagine your hope dies by your previous struggles. We suffered. But what gives me pride is that we could turn that around. I actually turned it around. When I found the slightest opportunity for self-improvement, which I believe is a continual process, I grabbed it. And I'm glad to the laws of the country, laws of the land, there are processes that allows someone to improve and progress in matters of education. So yes, I did not do well in my secondary school. I got a D-, no doubt. But Mr. Speaker, I turned that around. Today, as I sit here, I hold 2 degrees that are before you. Mr. Speaker, I am on my pathway to attain a master's degree from the most prestigious university in the world. And that is achieved by determination. Mr. Speaker, I want to tell Junet, Honorable Junet, that first let me begin by telling Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Kimani Ichung'wah, I contributed to my own school fees in secondary school. I had an understanding at that time with my principal that he released me earlier than any other student because I needed to go work. And I did. And I contributed. At that point, what was my priority? To conclude KCSE. And I knew deep in my mind that I will always in my life have a chance to further pursue and acquire more knowledge. And like I said, I would have been very surprised if this question did not come up, because it comes up every time there's an opportunity for me to do something. Every time. It started when I was running for MP. It started when I was running for MP in 2007. Big conversation. And that time they even actually said that my nursery certification was fake, my kindergarten. But we succeeded. When I was running for governor, Mr. Speaker, and I'm saying this so that we can, I hope we can bring this to a permanent closure. When I was running for governor in 2013, it also became one of the biggest campaign issues. I know there were even attempts to bribe some people in the institutions that I was with. Somebody once told me, someone came to me and told me, Bana, we've been told to suspend your degree. To purport, we're undertaking some investigation, just to not to allow me to meet the required timelines to submit my papers. But we overcame that and moved on. Then, Mr. Speaker, you also will remember, because it is a matter of public knowledge, the administration of President Uhuru Kenyatta, particularly the first term, had quite some issues with me. So again, there were those who felt that they may have an opportunity now to permanently remove me from the political equation by dealing with my education credentials. So, Mr. Speaker, I report before this House, there is no government institution, be it Higher Learning Commission, DCI, EACC, even a judicial process that has not investigated my credentials. And I commit before this House. In fact, they should be looking at this space. Probably if we succeed, if you nominate me, and we do well, the next, if I'm approved, the next vetting, you should see a PhD, Mr. Speaker. I'm telling you, watch this space. If I come back here, if God wills, you approve me, we do some real work, better the lives of the Kenyan people, you'll call me Dr. Hassan Joho, the next one, sir.
What
Mr.
was
Speaker, on the other matters.
Hold that. What was the outcome of the judicial challenge on your papers?
Mr. Speaker, they lost. And I actually know who sponsored the process, but they lost. You cannot take what is rightfully mine. It's as simple as that.
Go on and answer the other questions.
So they lost. And I know, unfortunately, there's an old man there in Mombasa, an 82 old man, who keeps sponsoring people to pursue the, and I'm sure probably.
Focus on your suitability.
Mr. Speaker,
yes.
I want to answer the question by Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah on the blue economy. And I want to combine it with maritime affairs. And I like the fact that you particularly picked on the job opportunities. Mr. Speaker, this ministry is a wealth creation ministry. This ministry is a great employment creation ministry. Now, just to give you some statistics, today, the global demand on seafarers is almost at 1.9 million. We in Kenya are contributing barely 0.2%. So out of, basically what I'm saying is out of the 1.9 million, we have just about 4,000 Kenyans that are getting into the industry by way of employment. Now, what are we going to do to change that? Number one, we must redesign our training program to fit into the demand of that opportunity. And I know there's quite some work that was done previously and continues to be done, but we may need to have a conversation. And if approved, I'm going to be running back quickly to this august house to engage honorable members on realigning the policies around training to be able to fit the demands. And I pick particular example. If you train someone to board a vessel, how you earn or how you get opportunity to be employed is almost similar to that of a pilot. So even as we see today, we have probably a good standard of training issued or undertaken at the Bandari Maritime Academy. But Mr. Speaker, everybody that graduates from Bandari Academy does not automatically qualify to get a job because they don't have something called sea time. They don't have sea time. They have no avenues to get sea time. So that for me is a matter of urgent intervention to ensure we combine our training with sea time, even if it's just basic. Nobody will employ you if you have never been on board a sea. So that is one area of policy realignment that I'm going to have to engage this honorable house. The other important area, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the statistics today, countries like Liberia are carrying 100 or plus more folds of their flag in vessels. We in Kenya, we're just about 5. From what I've heard from private sector, I've engaged the shipping industry, and I have been told, Mr. Speaker, the vessels that are carrying our flag are just about 5. What this therefore means is that our young people cannot get an opportunity because there is no level playing field. What do we need to do? Look at the policies. What is Liberia doing that is right that we can't do? What is it? Because we have so many vessels calling into our ships. What a local flag means, Your Excellency, is that the revenues generated, first of all, from the vessel will land in Kenya. Priority in terms of job opportunities will be for Kenyans. And opportunities to even design some internship program for attaining sea time. It is easier to take to Kenyan companies, and I'm going to do that. I think, Mr. Speaker, and I'm clear about it. Let me say I'm clear about it. If you approve my nomination, I will hit the ground running. It certainly shall not be business as usual. It will not, because I see. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, so that I give you the context on how and why it is urgent that we quickly realign policies that conform to the needs. It is because seafarer, by all standards, qualifies to be a prestigious job. There's no seafarer, at whatever cadre, there's nobody who earns less than $1,000. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll quickly run. The other question is on the fishing folk, and Mr. Junet, Honorable Junet, talked particularly on the lake areas, and I'm imagining he's looked at the demography well, because I was just looking at some statistics. And I looked lake areas from Muhuru Bay, you pass Siaya into Soiport, Sioport in Busia, and the numbers that are produced. Nothing justifies that our neighboring countries are processing more. Understood that they may have a lot of, the area might be wider, but they're processing 100-folds more, particularly for export. What do we need to do? And I've seen this problem, for example, in the fisher folk and artisan fishermen in the coastal region, from Kiunga to Lungalunga. And government has put some effort. Let me just acknowledge. Government so far has given boats and some storage facility. And they're building landing sites that are some complete and some yet to be complete. But that alone doesn't solve the issue. There is the issue of capacity building. These fisher folks, these artisan fishermen and women should be trained. Should be trained in how many fronts? One, processing. Basic business skills. Basic business skills. Storage and value addition. Mr. Speaker, growing up in Mombasa, I used to see a company that used to be called Wananchi Marine. That company was employing on a daily basis not less than 3,000 women to do fish processing. But as we sit here today, Mr. Speaker, there is no single factory that I can directly point at that does the same. And it's going to be my business. Number one, to create a lucrative environment for investment. You have to combine private sector investment, government support, and people's participation. And idea number one is, for example, if we want to help the fisher folks and fishermen generally, we must develop strategy like creating collection points. And I tell you, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, why I say that, because one boat goes out, comes with possibly 20 kilos, and they are likely to be possibly around maybe 100 boats of such capacity. But everyone who comes don't call it into the same landing site. What do? They find means to buy ice blocks and store. But imagine if we put them in a cooperative, manage them and organize them, train them. You arrange collection points. Why we don't export our fish very well is because we don't consolidate it. We don't consolidate our catch. So for me, I should have a truck picking from Kiunga into Owen Bay's constituency, Owen Bay's into Mombasa, into Kwale and Shimoni. Consolidate it so we bring adequate catch that will qualify for even export markets. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Ichung'wah talked about on restoration program of quarries. There is a law in place, but it's not enforced. What do I think needs to be done? Number one, We must create synergies with county governments. Why do I say so? They are beneficiary of the royalties. We must train and encourage the Kenyan people to abide to the required environmental standards. Number 3, we must work on our enforcement, and this will require a multi-sectoral approach that I'm probably going to initiate. And maybe on the policy issue is that we may consider requiring or requesting when you are licensed to mine, so that we are assured you will actually work on restoration, create a bond, a surety bond, whether by way of bank guarantee or whatever formula that works, so that you deposit it in government, a similar amount or an estimated amount. So if you don't restore the site that you've mined our geological wealth from, we have bonded you. So you just don't walk scot-free. Mr. Speaker,
you've answered all the questions.
I think I have answered all the questions.
Good.
I thank you.
Those who have never heard of Ali Mazrui, I encourage you to read a few of his books. Africans, A Triple Heritage, Africa's International Relations, and Africans from Slave Ship to Spaceship.
Mr. Speaker, if you have some extra copies, I'm going to pick some from you.
Pardon?
Good. If you have some extra copies, I'll pick some from you. If you've read, unless you're collecting them.
I'll share with you. Naisula?
Thank you, Chairman. To the nominee, during your preamble, you thanked His Excellency the President for nominating you, and that is why you're before this committee. You are in public having said, and I quote you, "I don't ever dream of engaging with Ruto. Mimi niongee na Ruto, niongee na Ruto nini?" I want to put it to you that if this committee nominates you and the National Assembly approves you, you'll be sitting in a cabinet where His Excellency the President will be chairing. I would like to know whether mutaongea nini kwa hiyo cabinet. But that's beside the point. I want to get to the real issues. But that's also a very valid question, because it will be important to know how you will engage as the minister, if approved, cabinet secretary, and with His Excellency the President. Now, there is tax exemption on exploration and accumulation of exploration expenses for offset against income upon full commercialization. What I would like to know is, do you think exemption should be tied to certain activities and for certain duration of time? There are people who are exploring in this country in perpetuity for 30, 40 years, just so that there is tax exempt. And I suspect they've actually explored and they've gotten the gemstones or whatever they're exploring, but because of the exempt, they continue to say they're exploring. To my last question, the Mining Act prohibits civil servants from dealing with minerals. According to Article 81 of the Mining Act, no person, whether civil or military, and serving in government is allowed to directly or indirectly acquire or hold any right or interest under any prospecting right. Despite this provision, high-ranking government officials, public officers, state officers, and civil servants are involved in mining. And I'm sure some of them have started looking for you since you were nominated. What mechanisms and plans will you put in place to ensure that revenues from gemstone mining do not end up in the pockets of cartels without disclosure? Actually, I thought cartels are only in agriculture, health. I've come to realize during this appointments committee, cartels are everywhere, including mining. And how do you intend to protect and shield communities from unscrupulous miners and cartels?
Nelson Koech.
Mine also was a quick one too, on the same gemstone. Late last year, the president had this launched, it's called a Voi Gemstone Value Addition Center. It is ill-equipped, nominee. I don't know what you will do to make sure there is value for money, and the small-scale miners are also able to be able to sell their mines in Voi Additional Center, Jamestown Additional Center. Number two is the mining law sets up several mechanisms which Kenyans can enjoy direct benefits from minerals. That is, for every sale of mineral, proportion of value of mineral is paid to the government as royalty, which is shared between national and county government and mining communities in the ratio of 70, 20 to 10, respectively. How then will you do differently to ensure the same is adhered to mining communities and county benefits?
Nominee.
Honorable Naisula, you talked about exploration, but my research tells me, and I'm yet to get a detailed brief from the ministry, that you're imagining there are people doing exploration for 30 years. There are people doing prospecting for 40 years. How that makes sense, I have no idea. Whether it happens anywhere in the world, certainly it cannot be. How do you prospect for 40 years? So we need to quickly relook into our policy, Mr. Speaker. We can't as a country. And this explains why mining GDP's contribution is under 1%. It can't continue like this. It can't continue. And Honorable Naisula, you are very right. If you thought you saw cartels, I've come to learn within this short period of time that I've been nominated, there are greater cartels in the mining industry. And Mr. Speaker, if you approve me, that is where I begin. Remove the cartels, remove the brokers. Mining industry in Kenya cannot be a market of speculators. Mr. Speaker, I've also learned that before someone hits the ground, you'll find instances where a company has exchanged hands more than 10 times. Someone has gone, applied for a license, given a license, sold it to the speaker, then sold it to Naisula, then sold it to Owen, then sold it to some farm in Canada, that one sells to China. All that time that they're speculating and gaining profits, the Kenyan people are losing. They are losing. It's only that I am, and this is a task I'm going to take, because it looks like Kenyan population really do not have an idea of what geological minerals may be in the country. They must get involved, and I'll take it upon me to ensure they get involved. So I identify completely with your sentiments, Honorable Naisula, and this is an urgent matter that must be discussed and be realigned in a manner that, that works and defeats those cartels. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Naisula told me, nitaongea na.
You don't have to answer that. Only fools don't change their minds.
I was going to say it in Kiswahili.
Go on and answer the other question.
Wapumbavu tu ndo wabadilishe
There is
mawazo.
a question on communities.
Yeah, I'm coming to that.
Yes.
Number one, I've already picked an issue on, for example, timely disbursement of royalties. Mr. Speaker, I was talking to some people from Taita Taveta County, some community, who told me they have not received their share of royalties on a certain mine for the last 7 years. That can't work. What we need to quickly do is to ensure we create systems that function. And number one priority is that the Kenyan people primarily should be priority in terms of receiving their royalties and benefits. Mr. Speaker, we also have to have a conversation. I am looking forward, for example, to quickly engage the counties. The counties, according to the current law, receive a good chunk of royalties. Maybe we may need to look at our legal framework on how we can also cushion the communities in the counties by ensuring that we maybe ring-fence some of the resources to development. Why do I say this, Mr. Speaker? You know very well. Geological minerals do get depleted. There are generations that will come many, many years after us, and this country must have something to show. We can't, it just can't be a story that Kenya had this and there's nothing to show. So, Mr. Speaker, I am going to engage and create working synergies with the counties and formulate, create a framework that is efficient in disbursing royalties. And also, if I go a step further, these communities must be organized. We must organize them. We must encourage them to get into cooperatives. We must encourage them in some instances. And I like that question because it gives me an opportunity to address something that we call back home as ancestral interest. Many of us, our populations, and it's not only in the coastal region, are squatters, Mr. Speaker. I saw that during the SGR. When they were constructing the SGR, Mr. Speaker, many people were compensated. But the title holders and the residents of certain areas were completely ignored. So there are certain regulations or laws that we must, and I'd be happy to come and engage the community to see how we can improve on them. Mr. Speaker, on Honorable Koech, I haven't seen the Gemstone Center at Voi, but I'm looking forward to see it. But what I think the mining industry needs to do is to focus on private sector investment. Government should not be in the business of competing with its citizens. So there has to be concerted effort and specific focus to encourage private sector investment. Why do I say so, Honorable Koech? Because they will meet the global standards. I am not sure whether the Jameson Center in Voi is properly equipped to test and process what they get. That is an urgent business for me. And I'm going to look into it as soon as I have an opportunity of possibly if this honorable committee approves me. So that we even are able to test, identify what minerals should be allowed for export, what should be kept home for value addition, and what should be put in the market and what values. And I have seen it. I've seen people from Voi coming into Mombasa with a small packet of many, many gemstones and almost sell them at wholesale price. Someone else picks them up, some foreigner will pick it up, go to Hong Kong, go to Thailand, and make double or triple the money that, that Kenyan ordinary man would. So I will look into that as a matter of urgency, Honorable Koech, and I'm hoping that I see the passion. We'll work together.
Posing, then Gikaria, then Emase. In that order. Take those three.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Joe, I hear you talk about policies and systems. Should you get the favor of the House, my proposal will be concentrated on the actions. If you live in these policies and systems, you will leave that office with systems and policies, having not even approved. So that's my advice. But my question is, the governors who have been ministers, Honorable Joe, have not gotten a good rating from where I sit. They have been accused of being desk ministers, governors, former governors. I don't know whether they got a lot of comfort when they were governors or they became two bosses when they were governors, and therefore they are not actually seen in the field. What will you convince this committee to believe in you? And particularly, I think I like the word you said, that what we lack is confidence. I think it's true, because I come from a mineral county, which is West Pokot. Confidence of investors coming to invest, and also confidence of the people accepting investors. What will you convince this committee, Honorable Joho, that you will be in these mineral counties in building confidence, and for both sides, the investors or you will go to Mombasa, because now blue economy in Mombasa, will you be also be in mineral counties to build confidence? Thank you, Speaker.
Can I?
Three. Ikaria,
Thank you.
just record and answer them quickly in the order they came. Ikaria, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman.
Switch off your mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the exploration is something that the nominee has said he's going to look into, and I'm saying this in relation to the corporation, the National Mining Corporation, which is a corporation of government, which is in exploration and does nothing other than just getting salaries and doing nothing in exploration. As we look at, I was trying to look at the law as to whether we have timelines for exploration. I remember in the Energy Act, we have 2 years for exploration. After that, your license expires. The other bit that also needs, you need to look at is the Mineral Rights Board, the licensing board that gives, there is a lot of bureaucracy in terms of giving licenses on time. It's like they don't have a service charter for if you apply today, by what time should you be able to get your license. But the most important thing is, let me talk about the artisanal miners. Honorable Nominee, artisanal miner is a big area of employment. And of course, we know there is a cooperative that has come in place. But again, the licensing of these cooperatives and artisanal miners has become an issue with the Mineral Rights Board. So what are you going to do to help our young men and people who work in doing artisanal mining across the country, who do the illegal mining per se in quotes, but who have been applying through cooperatives, and then it takes forever for them to be able, and getting very, very bad prices or bad for the product that they get from the mines. Thank you, Honorable Chairman.
Mary Massey.
Thank you, Speaker. Nominee, my first one's a comment. It's good that you mentioned about redesigning our training programs. Through you, Speaker, recently the Maritime Authority advertised for jobs for Kenyans to work in the vessels. And the requirement was just basically training in hospitality, front office, and a foreign language, which is German. But I put it to you, they could hardly raise the numbers that were needed. So seriously, it is an area of concern because we are losing out on opportunities as Kenyans, yet we're talking about unemployment. So, Honorable Nominee, if approved, I think that is one of the areas you need to seriously focus on to ensure that we're training in all disciplines related to maritime so that we can benefit from the opportunities. So my question is, and this is from a Kenyan, in 2010, the then Internal Security Minister, the late Honorable George Saitoti, tabled a list in Parliament containing 4 members of Parliament, including yourself as a suspected drug trafficker. The US Embassy also stated that Kenya anti-narcotic unit suspected that you were involved in narcotic trade. Are you aware of these grave allegations and the effects of drug addiction in our nation? If so, kindly shed some light on that. Thank you.
Answer those 3.
Honorable Kosing, my record speaks for itself. I was not in any way a desk governor. I am a ground person. I am a ground person. That is why I left Mombasa County with the best cardiac center in the country and possibly in the continent. I left Mombasa County with state-of-the-art cancer treatment center. I left the county with a lot of social development programs that are on record. So I'm just picking a few. Mr. Speaker, today if I have a cardiac issue, I want to tell you, and I will encourage all of you and those that have visited Mombasa, if you have a cardiac issue, Coast General is your place. Because they have the state-of-the-art cath lab with well-trained doctors that constantly do open heart surgeries, fix cardiac issues quickly, and that was my leadership. So I provide leadership, and I will. And in the mining and blue economy and maritime, if you approve me, I will hit the ground running, Mr. Speaker. On matters of licensing, I don't know whether this committee understands the process that is applied on licensing, but I'll quickly share from what I found out. And I'm saying that this I found out from the private sector. Number one, you go to the potential area and engage either the landlord or the communities or the county. Then you get a consent. Then online, there is what they call the cadastre that covers the whole country in potential areas in matters mining. Then once you have the consent, you peg on the cadastre. And then at that point, you do a physical license application. And I've already heard of many instances that people have falsified documents to peg on the cadastre. That is number one hindrance on efficiency on issuing license. Because then, therefore, a true potential, and this basically mostly is done by speculators. So the true potential investor does not get an opportunity to even apply. So we first of all must fix how we handle the pegging. We must have technological means of ensuring that whatever is used to peg a site meets the standards. I have had, for example, someone would just upload a newspaper, and that acts as a consent, because the technology currently doesn't have the ability to authenticate some of those documents that are uploaded. So what do I say? I say we need to digitize end to end. We must digitize it end to end. And Mr. Speaker, let me put it this way. Even in our own country, I know for sure, for certain, there are young people with enormous capacity and potential to help us develop. I must also say that I was taken by surprise when during Mandaman, there were some young Kenyans who quickly developed and designed a communication program. And people are communicating like an app overnight. It tells you young people have the capacity. And for me, Mr. Speaker, if I'm approved, my urgent and priority first step is to involve the young people. They can help us grow. They can help us fix many things locally. Like, for example, I believe something like a cadastre, where it holds a lot of information that is very strategic for the country, must be fully hosted here. Cannot be hosted, for example, by a competing country. So for us, what do? We invest in technology end to end. Right now, I'm informed that they have done it, but there's quite a human interaction phase that we must try and do away. It will create efficiency. It will also deal with corruption issues. So I hear you, Mheshimiwa, and I can tell you that that will be my priority. And also, I want to talk on the artisanal miners and licensing. They go through similar challenges, Mr. Speaker. They go exactly how a private sector investor suffers is the same way, unfortunately, the artisanal miner also suffers. So that, for me, is something that I must look into. For me, Kenyans must be allowed to exploit their wealth so that they can better their lives in a manner that is organized, safe, and most importantly, beneficial to them. So that I will do. Mheshimiwa Imase, you talked about training. I couldn't agree more that we must design our programs or the architecture of training in a manner that fits the needs of the players. We must do that. I mean, there's no two ways. What do I think I will do? Obviously, I will begin by evaluating the Bandari Academy. But I'm going also to try and forge partnership with, for example, Technical University of Mombasa, the universities around the lake areas, and many others, because those job opportunities are not only for the coastal people. They are not only, they're for every Kenyan. And therefore, we must create a partnership in designing an architectural plan that conforms to what the industry needs. And I will work closely with private sector. Mr. Speaker, finally, Honorable Emase talked about a citizen that sent you SMS.
A question on SMS.
On the drug baron issue. You know, the irony for me is that when you want to pick records selectively, that is what challenges me. The quagmire for me is I don't understand if you come and table a report. Obviously, there must be some subsequent actions. And I want to also, this is one matter that I really hope we can put to permanent closure, Mr. Speaker. When I was campaigning in 2013, in Mombasa, there were billboards put up. Don't vote the baron, vote change. Mr. Speaker, let me begin with that report. Yes, I thought he tabled the report on a dossier that he was given, that was passed to him through the American embassy. What normally happens is that when you table or pass a dossier, it is investigated, I believe. It is worked on. So that happened. The late Honorable Saitoti, may the Almighty rest his soul in eternal peace, came back to Parliament with a report. He came back to Parliament and tabled a report of investigation and the outcome. And it was a multi-agency, almost international investigation that clearly stated, and I'm going to only speak for myself, that no iota of evidence was found against me. Mr. Speaker, let me put it this way. I'm not a fool. I come from a family that is blessed with businesses. And I am thankful to Almighty for what I have. So number one, that investigation was concluded. Number two, Honorable Emase, first term as governor, I was the greatest critic of the Jubilee administration. Had lots of personal altercation. They came after me in businesses. In many fronts. Don't you think for a minute, if I was involved in any illegal activity, I would have survived that regime? They would quickly have used it to, like they say, I remember, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, just indulge me a minute. I remember at that time, the president came to Mombasa and said, "Tutamalizana na huyu." They would have used it. So please, Kenyans, I want to assure you here today that I do clean business. Visible, that can be audited, can be seen, physical, and therefore, please, Mr. Speaker, if anybody talks about a report that was tabled on the dossier, also talk about the report that came after that, that cleared us. And I am particularly interested because first point for me to call and try and interest investors to come, I am planning to go to the United States. They are known for big investments in mining, and it is my plan to go and engage them, interest companies from the United States.
The same Americans gave you a visa to accompany me as foreign minister to the US.
Exactly, Mr. Speaker, just after that. In fact, just after the day I went.
Immediately after that.
And I've been to America many times, and I intend to continue to go to America, because America really, Mr. Speaker, I think we're going to be looking that way to get investors to come and invest, particularly in the areas of mining. So, Mr. Speaker, that matter, again, I hope it comes to permanent closure. Because it's all like education, it comes up only when they are seeing an opportunity.
But don't be pigeonholed to America. There are even bigger mining countries like Australia.
No, in Canada, Australia.
Others, yes.
And even here, by the way, Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether you know, I've just found out, in fact, just yesterday, that Kenyans have invested heavily in mining in Tanzania. So even here we have them.
Are you talking about me?
Daud Morogara, order nominee, no altercations with members. Daud Morogara, then Owen, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. To the nominee, Honorable Joho. What you have said about cadastral and all that, your predecessor, when he was there, Honorable Vuria, when he came for vetting in 2022, he talked about the NIS doing prospecting for all the minerals in the country. And there are minerals in Meru County, by the way, in Beo. But unfortunately, even by the time he left, he never visited Meru. So my first question to you would be, like what Honorable Posing has said, you may be a desk CS if you are approved. What will happen, I hope, because you know Meru is cold and Mombasa is hot, and you're used to the hot weather, you may feel very cold in Meru. And the same thing, on the same, there has been exploration of copper and gold in Meru. But unfortunately, the company which was prospecting, a Kenyan company, Goita Mining Limited, has been bought out by Avira Resources Limited of Australia. So my question would be, do you think that we as Kenyans will benefit, or will the benefit be for outsiders who come prospecting in Kenya and taking away everything what is there? The second question, because that was one question, Mr. Speaker, there is a question from one of our viewers, and he says, the Auditor General, that is now for the time you were as a governor in Mombasa, that there is an Auditor General report about garbage, a 1 billion shilling garbage tender, which was given to some of your relatives in Mombasa. And there is even talk that it is not Ali Hassan or Hassan Ali Joho who handled Mombasa County. It was a relative of his. I would not mention him for, it would not be right, but it was not you who were running. You were running the political part. The other part was being run by somebody else. Can you confirm or deny? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nominee, make a distinction between Meru and Tharaka Nithi. He's been talking about Meru. If I'm to say anything, it will be on Tharaka Nithi. The two are separate and distinct.
You are actually vetting the nominee on behalf of the people of Kenya.
No.
Not your constituencies, not your counties.
Mr. Speaker, sir, we have questions to ask.
Ask the question,
we have to draw that distinction.
but avoid the temptation to appear that you are vetting nominees on behalf of your constituencies or your counties.
I agree, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, some questions are relevant. We have to draw.
Sir, I'm not curtailing you at all. Go on and ask.
Thank you very much for the distinction. Nominee, you began when you were responding to a question by stating that what it is that Liberia gets right and we get it wrong. And here you were talking about maritime affairs, the sea vessels. And I don't know whether you know the historical background, why Liberia is actually the largest flag carrier in respect of ships. And that also goes with, it has the highest number of shipwrecks in the high seas, purely because most of those ships are condemned in their countries, and this is the reason why they find solace in going to Liberia to get national flag. So I do not know whether you wish Kenya also to take that route and emulate that. You respond. Number two, a question from a viewer who wants to know really whether the nominee is familiar with the minerals found in the country and where those minerals are to be found, including my own county, Tharaka Nithi, and my constituency, Tharaka. Then the third one is on fisheries. We have what are known as Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institutes spread across the country. Some of them are stored. They started building, but halfway they collapsed. If you are approved by this House, nominee, do you confirm that you would embrace the policy of completing those institutes, because some of them are actually meant for marine research in the hinterland? Thank you.
Thank you, George. Don't feel like I curtailed you. I was just giving direction to everybody. Owen?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would like to request the following information from our nominee one. Listening to you, Honorable Ali Hassan Joho, you come through as a hustler that has come from the bottom up, bottom there, coming up through many struggles. And the very many lessons that we learned from your interaction in this committee. As you sit, if approved by this committee, if you sit in cabinet, how do you help to encourage the hustlers, especially in the mining, in the fisher folks in this case in Kenya are basically hustlers who are trying to make it in life. Probably you are a good example of that. How do you intend to really bring in that to cabinet and assist the cabinet really to help the hustlers in this country who seem to have given up? Secondly, how do you use your experience in business? I can see you have good credentials in business and you've come up as a businessman. How do you intend to bring in those credentials in your business field and your experience also as governor who chaired a cabinet at the county level to assist the cabinet to really meet the aspirations of the young people who are actually hustlers, who seem to be giving up, the Gen Zs who seem to be giving up in life? How do you intend to bring that experience to help Kenyans? My second question is that specifically to the marine area, there is a marine spatial plan that has been in the works for many years. It has never succeeded, it has never taken off. Many people in the marine industry are waiting for that spatial plan. How soon can this country realize a spatial plan in the marine area? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You can take those, nominee.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Let me begin, first of all, by the spatial plan issue. And I believe strongly in planning from an informed position and real-time data management and collection. Basically, if even land use is critical that is properly planned. So this, for me, is urgent, and I'm going, if approved, to ask that it be expeditiously done, because it is important. Honorable Owen, sorry, I'm starting with you, Owen. My experience as a businessman and as a public officer, and I am glad that I've served in different spectra. I was once an assistant minister, got a lot of guidance at that time from the Honorable Speaker. He was my mentor, actually, in Parliament. I participated strongly in matters of legislation. I remember the NTSA formation was done under my watch at the 10th Parliament, Mr. Speaker. And the acumen stature of business I got is for literally experience. And Mr. Speaker, I've run quite fairly big business, and I bring that on board to be able to capture the ideology of a business sector, combine it with public sector, so that we can be able to deliver on behalf of the country. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure Honorable Owen, those wavuvis or fisher folks or artisan fishermen, they need help. They need help to be organized. They need, for example, we must find means, whether by way of partnership or government funding or private sector. And this, for me, is an area of interest because I am aware of the Go Blue conversation. Many young Kenyans have been sponsored, but we need really now to start sponsoring them for deep sea fishing. Because even if they use what they have today, they can achieve that much. But if we get them to go deep sea fishing, then now for me, that will be the game changer. And that is what I will undertake to do if this committee approves me. Mr. Speaker, on matters of stalled projects, government should not have any stalled projects. You must plan well. Mheshimiwa Murugara. Government should not have stalled projects. We must develop plans that do work. So that when you start something, you must finish. And like Owen asked, I gained that experience from private sector practice. Value for money and timely delivery is critical. So expect that we'll have a conversation. First of all, I'm not in a position today to say I know all the stalled projects, but we will have a conversation and develop a clear plan to be able to complete the stalled projects. We don't want a situation where we embark on new projects and we leave the old ones stalled. My brother, Dawood, you talked about NIS prospecting report. I'm not in a position right now to comment about it. But I have an issue on communication that must improve. And I would urge even my colleagues in other ministries that ministries must help the president to communicate to Kenyans. If we had a clear communication plan, you probably wouldn't need this opportunity to ask, what do we have in the country? So I will go to the ministry if approved, learn what they have, and I promise I will communicate to the Kenyan public of what they have. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Dawood asked on exploration of gold and copper in Meru, and the fact that the miners or the mining company exchange hands. I think the fact that companies do exchange hands doesn't mean the law on royalties change. It should remain, and they should continue to pay royalties, both to the communities, county government, and national government. So I doubt if the government would lose. The only thing that I am concerned about, and I think we collectively should, is the testing of minerals. Whether we have that capacity in the country. Because I'm told, I took some time and called some minister friend I have in another country that's very successful in mining. I'm told in instances where you mine copper, you are very likely to get good deposits of gold. But what the miners do is that they only report copper. So therefore, we urgently need to enhance our testing capacity and ground truthing. And I will happily visit you in Meru, in Tharaka, in Migori. I'll go to Suna. I'll go to Kikuyu. I'll go to Turkana. Turkana has the potential of exporting large quantity of what they call mango tilapia. Huge market for mango tilapia in DRC. I have to go there and see how we can improve on that. I will go to Busia for gold and value addition. I'll go to Kakamega and the larger Western. Everywhere where there's potential for minerals, I will go to ensure, first of all, We involve the communities, we work with the counties, we secure the communities, we engage on matters of environmental impact. So I will be visiting every part of this country, Mr. Dawood, including Tharaka and Meru. And Pokot. And Kosin is a fairly blessed man. I hope he'll host
everywhere.
And everywhere.
Yes.
But I want Kosin to undertake that he'll host me when I go there. So prepare some sumptuous cuisine. On the 1 billion tender, I saw it. Mr. Speaker, let me confirm. This is a matter that was audited, dealt with, investigated by the anti-corruption and the DC and everybody, and it was concluded. First and foremost, it has never been 1 billion. The contract, yes, it was a tender advertised. Someone won the bid, not from my family. My family is in the logistics business. They're extremely busy. In fact, sometimes I struggle to encourage them to help me with social programs under our foundation. They are too busy. They have no time to do government business. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, just to put to the record, my family does not do business with any government entity. We are in logistic business in Tanzania, in Uganda, in South Sudan, in Dubai, and here in Kenya. So please be assured, my family is not in any way involved in that tender. And the actual amount that was being investigated, Mr. Speaker, was just about 200 million, paid to the company that won the bid over a period of 3 years. The way it is portrayed is like I went to the county coffers with a check of 1 billion and gave to my cousin. That is not the case. It was a tender, advertised, someone applied. It's only that I cannot mention the name of the guy who won the tender. But even him, he did bid in that tender for just helping us to achieve certain environmental standards. He was already a big billionaire. So he's just set up just where, and he outbid everybody. So in the period of 3 years, Mr. Dawood paid 290 million. And it was investigated and concluded.
We also received some memorandum on that. You've answered all the three. Now let's go to Robert Mbui.
Mr. Speaker, I haven't answered the issue on Liberia.
Okay.
And it is very important.
Okay.
And I want to inform Honorable Murugara that, yes, there may be historical issues. But you know what? You call them abandoned or condemned vessels. I want to enlighten you. I'm actually going to encourage those condemned vessels to come to Kenya for one purpose: destruction. It's a big business opportunity. Honorable Murugara, I don't know whether you are aware. The maritime standards set on the time period a vessel should be sailing is very strict. Where do I see the opportunity? I have seen India is big, Singapore is big on vessel destruction. So I would also encourage private sector here. Let those condemned vessels come, we demolish them, and help our steel industry. It will be a game changer for our steel industry. One, first of all, the owner of the vessels pays to bring the vessel, and they pay for destruction, and we remain with the steel. So it is what we do with it. For me, so Mr. Murugara, I see there a great opportunity that we must engage in. Sumra atafurahi sana.
Robert, then Stephen, then Didoras, in that order.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have just a quick comment and then one question to the nominee. You know, Africa is rich in mineral resources and other raw materials, yet we remain poor in the world of community of nations. And from my research, and Kenya is also very rich in minerals. And like you've said, you know, it contributes very, very small percentage of our GDP. But despite that, nominee, there are also a lot of billionaires, not very many, but a number of billionaires in Kenya out of this issue of minerals. So maybe you need to help Kenya to be able to achieve its objectives in this industry. But then I have a question, and it's not mine, it's a submission, and that will help us test your integrity. And I've heard you say you want to clear the air on matters out there in public domain. This is a submission that was given to this committee in an affidavit, but did not conform to Section 6/9 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act. But we have agreed that it's important that we field these questions for you to clear the air. Now, this is a gentleman who says that as governor of Mombasa County, your administration awarded a tender to construct a county stadium at a cost of taxpayers' money to the tune of 1.8 billion. Now, a report by the Auditor General for the financial year that ended June 2023 showed that the county stadium was yet to be completed, this is many years later, despite the construction beginning in 2018. Now, consequently, the Office of the Auditor General could not ascertain the value for money of the expenditure incurred on the proposed development of the sports complex, and this could therefore risk cost escalation and project termination. Kindly explain the extent of your involvement in the matter and whether the stadium has since been constructed so that you could allay the public.
Stephen?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome, Nominee, Governor Hassan Ali Joho, former. Blue economy is 1.5 trillion US dollars globally, whereby it creates more than 30 million jobs. And my question is that as you approved or get favor from this committee, you need to look at Kenyans and the young people on how to tap in this space of 30 million jobs to make sure that the young people in this country get those opportunities. On a lighter one, I've perused your questionnaire which you filled, and I believe you have a number, but I think it's a typo error. You gave the number for Safaricom, 0722 000 000. Can you clarify?
Thank you, Mr.
We'll take the next. Russell.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Hassan, as soon as I am here, as soon as your name hit the media, people in Mombasa were on the streets, young and old, all of them. A few days later, one of the MPs said, now Hassan Ali Joho should become a cabinet. He should not come back to local politics. My first question is there potential of conflict that you want to be a cabinet minister and also interfere with local politics in Mombasa? You need to clear the air. The second question, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Hassan Joho is a businessman, and you deal with many things, logistics, jewelry, all of that. We are giving you mining. Mining today is done by the locals in Navakolo, Ikolomani, Homa Bay, in Moyale and Marsabit, where they do gold and other minerals, and they eke out living through that. Tell us, we as Kenyans, you are looking for private investors. Do we see the potential that you get private investors so that the locals, the communities, will be locked out? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Nominee, answer those three.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, let me just clarify that my family is not in jewelry business. We are in logistics, obviously diversified a little bit in real estate and trading. Let me ascertain that we are in this industry that is called service industry we don't work with government. We've never worked, my family has never worked with government. We don't do business with government. We have a straightforward business, and I assure you that we will not do business with government. We have enough already, as it were, to deal with. On the question of the comments by the Honorable MP, no, in Mombasa, on the same one, on the comments. I want to tell you, I now serve the nation. And in fact, I will make efforts to even unite those that are in Mombasa. I must help the president unite the country. And therefore, I must rise above local, divisive conversations. Every Kenyan must be served equally across board. So if there's anything I'm going to do, is to actually endeavor to unite Kenyans and even leaders even more. So be rest assured, politicians have their space, they can say what they say, but if I'm approved, I serve the nation, and I want to assure this House I will do anything to see a Kenyan that is united. Mr. Speaker, on my telephone number, let's begin there. I wonder the kind of calls that I'm going to get today. But you missed out on a digit, so I'll tell you later. Because I can be salimiwad. But yes, it has those many zeros. I may have gotten some shares maybe from on a light note, Mr. Speaker. So I want to also say that I agree with the Honorable Stephen on the space in the blue economy. And Mr. Speaker, if there's one thing that this country needs to focus on, is mining and blue economy. I believe if we take the right strategy, we deploy the right strategy, we can even remove ourselves from the hole of debt using our own resources. We can. We can. And we should. And therefore, I'll make it my business to ensure systems that work are deployed, processes that are efficient are used, so that we also can help this country move from the burden it is in today. And I believe strongly that this ministry is a ministry of wealth creation and employment opportunity. And that will be my focus if you approve me. Mr. Speaker, someone touched, Honorable Roberts, you touched on Mombasa Stadium and the GDP contribution. By the way, from what I read, when I was doing my research, I saw that Kenya was reporting 1% contribution to the GDP. But that included Base Titanium, which was actually the largest mining company in Kenya, which closed shop and left. So even if you remove now what Base Titanium used to contribute, we could be even lower to maybe 0.5%. And there, we quickly need to start moving so that we embark on getting real investment and in real time. Finally, Mr. Speaker, is the stadium. I saw that, affidavit. Now let me tell you what Mombasa was planning to do at that time. The idea of building a stadium was conceptualized around 2019 towards the end. We designed, we wanted to build a world-class stadium. Designed, put it up for tender. The tender was won by a Turkish company in partnership with a local company. So the stadium that we had wanted to build in Mombasa was a modern stadium that is built mostly by steel. And that is why physically you may not see the work done when you go to the ground. But I want to assure this House, and this has been a matter of investigation. It has been investigated by the Public Works. Even that Auditor General report, when it went to the Senate, it was cleared. It was not investigated by the Ministry of Sports, that all the earthworks have been completed. So what was remaining is to bring the steel bit of the stadium and just install, which I was made aware that 70% thereabout of it had been completed in Turkey. And it was just not a basic stadium. In there was multi-purpose hall, amphitheater, Olympic-sized swimming pool, and the rest of the facilities. Now, where we faced the challenge, 2019, we award a contract. 2020, hit hard by COVID. And obviously, as a leader, like many of you did, is to first of all find means and ways to cushion your people. Mombasa, at that time, announces 50% waivers on all levies because of COVID. So a sudden drop, significant drop of our local revenue. Then, subsequently, the Revenue Allocation Commission re-engages on a new formula that made Mombasa lose 2 billion shillings. 2 billion shillings. We moved from an allocation of 8 billion to 6 billion. So that completely ruined every single plan we had to complete even that. I even remember I placed a call at that time to the president and informed him that we have awarded a contract that is 1.7 billion. COVID has forced us to waive levies to cushion Kenyans. Our allocation is lost by 2 billion. How are we going to pay for this stadium? And I invited at that time the national government, please come on board and help us to complete this. Because it's already, as I speak today, I'm aware it's already completely done in Turkey. If we have resources, we pay and they install. If they come within 2 months, you have a stadium up and running because all the earthworks are completely done. So I assure you, first of all, it's not 1 billion that has been paid. What has been paid for earthworks and part of the steel, and also 30% of the steel is already in Mombasa. If you visited the stadium today, you'll see they've already put up one side of the stadium as a sample. So, first of all, amount spent, no, not 1 billion, just about 400 million. Earthworks are done. 30% of the steel is in Mombasa, 70% is in Turkey, and I hope, and I want to encourage even my current governor to engage. And I know he's doing it. He's talking to national government because they're still struggling with the resources. So that allegation, be rest assured, tender was done above board, money, value for money for certain, investigation completed, no issues at all was raised by the relevant institutions. So, what was the question, Mr. Speaker?
The question was, by bringing in mega international investors, are you going to disenfranchise the local artisan miners?
No, this is what I think should happen. Obviously, for us to make meaning of what we exploit, we must encourage international investors. But I also appreciate that if Kenyan people or companies do invest, they have a greater advantage because all the dollars that are paid now will land where? Here. And for me, there's two fronts. One, artisanal miners can be organized. And by the way, we should even look at the law if we can encourage that if you are licensing a big company, for example, to mine copper, say in Busia County, we can, in the same spirit, organize local people. If we're allocating 10 acres, why can't we hire, for example, 2 acres, train local artisanal miners, equip them to make sure they are safe, because safety is a great issue, so that they can also participate in the building of the nation. And that really is a matter we are going to engage in collectively so that we cushion our people, so that exploitation does not negatively impact the people of Kenya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Hassan, what I am saying is by dint of having international conglomerates to do mineral prospecting or excavating mineral, there are those communities, those individuals who are doing the mining, and they can easily be removed by virtue of not having the license, by virtue of environmental impact assessment, safety, excuses that actually locks the locals out. The reassurance I want is locals should not be locked out. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I believe in the principle that primarily first beneficiary should be at the center where the local is. And we will do everything possible to cushion that local. And I said it earlier, and I want to repeat it again. We must equip them to be able to do real business. Number one, train them in matters mining, equip them, matters of safety, and even give them basic business skill so they know value for money. For example, Mr. Speaker, in Migori County, the artisanal miners, they go for small collection. Somebody just wants to collect enough to eat for the day. They go in very dangerous or hazardous environment. When they think they've gotten what will give them that meal for that day, they go home. Don't you think there's a need for us as a country to engage them, to tell them if you do it in a much more organized way, you can actually change your life for a long period of time. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to assure the honourable member that...
Point of order. I was hoping that you would say something like this, that you'd promote a legislation, like happens in many countries, that if a foreign investor is coming in, they must have a component of local shareholding, so that we don't only benefit, because when an investor comes in, we only benefit from their investment and employment and tax in Kenya, but they repatriate the entire amount of their profit. So we should be looking towards that, or else the country will be owned by foreigners.
No, without a doubt, and I take your comments very, very seriously, that, that this requires a very deeper conversation with all of us, and I'm happy to assure you that we'll take it on. Like other countries, like you've rightly said, other countries do. Even though we are a liberal economy, we'll find ways to ensure we cushion the Kenyan population.
We have a law on local content, and if you apply and improve it, if an Australian or French company comes to mine here, and they make $1 billion profit in a year, that is money out of our economy. If 40% of that money goes to local shareholding, that is money into our economy. The most important thing is to structure such that the local content is not used to create a cabal of a few super rich against the rest of Kenyans. The local content could be a county, could even be government shareholding through parastatals in your ministry. The government also has a duty and a right to incorporate companies on behalf of the public and have them be shareholders in those mining activities. If a foreign bank makes 30 billion profit in Kenya, that is money out of our economy. If a local bank makes 10 billion profit in a year, that is money into our economy. We'll take the, okay.
I think, Mr. Speaker, I couldn't agree more. And probably that may be the reason as to why the National Mining Corporation was formed, one of the reasons. And because National Mining Corporation is not fully functional today, and Madam Boss, this, first of all, may be the first area of potential, get them to partner with other investors so that they can achieve that local content. And I will strongly propagate that it happens. Thank you.
In fact, before I call Sharia, at independence, nominee, the government had ICDC that was a shareholder for the government and the people of Kenya virtually in each and every international investment that came in, be it Coca-Cola, whichever you name it, and they were holding this on behalf of the people of Kenya and generating wealth for the people of Kenya. Now we'll take the last four in a row, Honorable Sharia, Honorable Mishi, Honorable Mukami, and Honorable Caleb Amisi in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mheshimiwa Joho, there are numerous abandoned mines and quarries across the country that are a danger to the people. What measures will you implement to ensure the safety and rehabilitation of these sites? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Shimbogo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, just to know that the nominee today used to be my governor for 2 terms in Mombasa County, but today I'm here as a member of the Committee of Appointments, and I'm being governed by the rules and procedure of vetting. My first question to the nominee, although the nominee has talked about training, but I want to pick one particular component on training on the seafarer or regarding maritime studies. This is what is abbreviated as STCW, meaning Standard of Training and Certification of Watchkeeping. Most of our seafarers, they're educated, they have the qualification, but they don't have the certificate for STCW. And that is why most of them, when they want to acquire jobs to the vessels, it becomes an impediment. I know the ministry has reduced the payment for such training, and now it's at around 15,000 Kenya shillings. But still, most of our formative groups, and those who are vulnerable, those from the minority, the marginalized, the youth and the women, they still can't afford to pay that money for that training. And yet His Excellency has really been talking about working on ensuring that we create employment, because unemployment is a threat now to this country. I'm asking the nominee, what will be your immediate and short-term intervention to ensure that at least we cushion these affirmative or rather vulnerable groups, that they can acquire this certificate or STCW so that they can be employed in the vessels, the fish vessels, tourist vessels, so that they can earn some employment and assist their families. My second question, Honorable Chair, I'm going to do it in a Kiswahili language. Mheshimiwa nominee wetu wa leo, mara nyingi au mara kadhaa katika taifa letu la Kenya ama serikali yetu ya Kenya kumekuwa na miradi ambayo inahusu kuchimbwa zaidi kwa bahari. Ile Kiingereza tunaita dredging. Kwa mfano kama mradi wa Lapset, kulifanyika mambo ya dredging, hivyo basi kuathiri wavuvi wetu katika sehemu ile. Katika sehemu ya Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone, ambapo kutajengwa port itakayoitwa Dongo Kundu Port. Pia kuna mambo ya dredging ambayo yamefanyika ama uchimbwaji zaidi wa bahari. Katika harakati hizi tunapata wavuvi wetu wanaathirika, haswa kwanza ikiwa uvuvi ndio kitega uchumi chao cha kuhakimu katika maisha yao. Na ile fidia ambayo wanapewa huwa ni fidia duni, na wengi pia hiyo fidia pia hawaipati. Na hata sasa kuna kesi ambazo zinaendelea za wavuvi kulilia serikali juu ya fidia kama hizi. Je, iwapo utabahatika kuweza kukubalika kufanya kazi katika wizara hii, utaweza kuweka mikakati gani ama utaweka mbinu gani muafaka kuhakikisha kama taifa tutaangalia wavuvi hawa wetu ambao wengi wao wanatoka katika familia ambazo ni maskini ama katika maeneo ambayo ni maskini. Mwisho kabisa ni sheria za kuwasaidia hawa wavuvi katika wakati wanavua. Ni katika swala hilo mheshimiwa. Unajua mimi natoka sehemu ambazo kuna bahari. So nakuomba msamaha mheshimiwa, nimalize hili la mwisho. Wakati mwingi wavuvi wetu wanapovua wanashikwa. Kwa mfano kama wale wa sehemu ya Kwale, sehemu za Lungalunga na Shimoni, wanaambiwa ya kwamba mumepita bahari zaidi, mumefika Tanzania. Wale wa Migingo wanaambiwa sasa nyinyi mumepita Uganda. Yani kunakuwa na zile sintofahamu, na sijui kama kuna mikakati ya kuwa kuna masomo ambayo wanaweza kufunzwa kuelewa hii mipaka, ama kwa Kiingereza territorial boundaries. ziko vipi, ndio ya kwamba wasiwe kila mara. Manake mimi kama mjumbe mara kwa mara napigiwa simu, mheshimiwa, tumeshikwa, tulikuwa tunavua, tulikuwa sehemu za gasi, sasa tumeambiwa tumeingia Tanzania, tumeshikwa, tuko huku Tanzania. Swala hili naomba mheshimiwa nominee aweze kutueleza njia ambayo ataweza kusaidia wavuvi wetu katika swala hili zima. Asante sana mheshimiwa mwenyekiti.
Mheshimiwa Mishi, kwa Kiswahili sanifu, huyu ni waziri mteule, sio waziri nominee. Mkami?
Mheshimiwa Spika, nominee ndio hiyo, mteule ni nominee. Yaani umekuwa
wewe ulisema utauliza swali kwa Kiswahili.
Umeteuliwa.
Sasa Kiswahili sanifu ni waziri mteule.
Ali Spika namfunza Mishi Kiswahili leo.
Leo nafunza Kiswahili.
Yes, Mkami?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to admit that I am really touched with what nominee has said, where he has come from to where he is. And I'm sure, being a Sunday, there are so many people watching, especially youth, and even the media people who are here, that God can bring you from down there to up where he is today. My question is regarding hustlers. Small-scale mining in Kenya employs more than 140 people and supports over 800,000 households. Our workforce times larger than its equivalent in large-scale mining, which employs just 9,000 people. However, several constraints limit its economic potential due to informality, poor health, and safety standards, a shortage of access to geo-data, and financial challenges. As Cabinet Secretary, if you are going to be approved, what measures will you implement to elevate the hustlers of artisanal small-scale mining? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Caleb Amisi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just like Honorable Mishi, I also wish to state that the nominee before us is been serving as my deputy party leader, as well as my very close friend, so we've interacted a lot, but that will not conflict my role in this very important process. Honorable Speaker, I have two questions to the nominee. One, marine, you are aware that there exist marine resource utilization contracts between Kenya and other fishing powerhouses around the region or even beyond on the use of marine resources. But there have been questions on, number one, the provision of sustainability of these fishing practices. There are benefits to Kenya, there are long-term management, how public can access those contracts, even the approvals, and potentially, if there exists, the rescinding to the contracts. What do you say about it, if you know about the contracts and how you will make Kenya benefit? And then secondly, Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask this, because in my second term now as a member of parliament, I've served in the Committee of Defense and Foreign Relations, where I had an opportunity to vet, I think cumulatively close to 60 ambassadors, high commissioners, consular generals, and state representatives to the international organizations, and the principal secretaries, more than 10. Now, in this committee, I've also had an opportunity to now vet close to almost 30 cabinet secretaries. Cumulatively, these almost 100 senior Kenyans are vetted. They have all promised, very competent, very enthusiastic about their country, charismatic in their own nature, very knowledgeable, highly educated, very varied history. Some, they share your history, by the way, some of us have even worse histories, and some have good histories. They have promised all. But for the last 7 years, there is nothing. Nothing. The heaven they promise, I have not even dreamt it. What is this that you possess? What is these 8 wonders of the world that you possess?
that is going to give me a sigh of relief?
Nominee, answer those. The question from Honorable Shuri actually had been asked by Chungwa and somebody else, but answer that.
So, Mr.
Neglected mine piece.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I had said earlier, this is something we're going to look into, and for the future, to prevent that from happening, we will have to find a way to create some sort of...
You said you'll bond the miners.
Yeah, bond the miners. But that doesn't mean we'll ignore the existing problem. We'll have to just find a solution. We will consult among ourselves and even other government entities. So, Mr. Speaker, Mishi talked about accreditation issue for our seafarers. I really don't think that should be an issue. What I can promise Honorable Mishi is that I, if approved, will embark urgently and immediately to see that we have a seamless process for our young people in Kenya who want to pursue seafaring as a job are facilitated. Government's job is to facilitate, and that we will do. I don't even think that is a policy issue. It's a matter that needs urgent action. And I know between Maritime Authority and Bandari Academy, we should be able to sort that out. So I give you my undertaking that, that we will sort it out. There's really no, there cannot be a justification. If someone meets the threshold, they should be certified. And that's something we'll do quickly. Mr. Mheshimiwa Speaker, Mishi ameuliza swali na Kiswahili. Kwanza nataka kujua, sijui kwa nini alikuwa apologetic about it. Kiswahili ni lugha ya taifa. Sasa kulijibu ndio kizungumkuti.
Unaweza kujibu kwa Kiswahili?
Tutapambana. Mimi ni Mswahili. So, Mheshimiwa...
But you know, parliamentary standing orders require that since you started in English, you must go in English all through.
But Mr. Speaker, then
Although
that would be double standard.
I allowed Mishi. I'll give you also the same latitude to answer in Kiswahili. I know Honorable Mishi was playing to the gallery.
No, I'm sure on
Chair, it's a valid question.
Valid, and the gallery is equally valid.
That's why I'm representing them.
Honorable Mheshimiwa Mishi anaongea na watu wake wa Likoni na wengineo ambao wanaelewa Kiswahili. So, Mheshimiwa Speaker, kwanza uchimbaji wa bahari ni lazima ufanywe kwa njia ya kueleweka na kufahamika. Lazima iwe na utafiti na mipango ya kutosha, kwamba ukichimba kwa ujenzi wa bandari lazima upime mambo ya mazingira kwa kufahamika. Huwezi kuwa utachukua tu kwa sababu unataka kuongeza uwezo wa bandari ama mabehewa makubwa kuingia, uchimbe na uumize mazingira. Hii ni mambo ambayo haiwezekani. So mimi kama
mazingira huharibiwa, haiumizwi. But endelea.
Waswahili waelewe hiyo Mheshimiwa. So hata mimi nimepigwa na butwa vile Kiswahili chake kiko kitamu. So Mheshimiwa Speaker, mazingira lazima yalindwe. Na sababu muhimu ya kulinda mazingira ni kwa sababu mazingira yanasaidia katika eneo la uchumi la wananchi. Na mimi nataka niseme, hata nikimaliza nilikuwa nimeandika pointi 10 ambazo nataka kuzisema, nitakwambia, ambayo naona vile tunafaa twende. Lakini haiwezekani kwamba ubora huu ushinde ubora mwingine zaidi. Lazima kuwe na balance, uwiano na usawa. Yaani tunasema Mheshimiwa Speaker, katika yale yanayofanyika lazima kuwe na uwiano na usawa, hasusan katika mapato. Na hakuna mimi nafahamu vile pale Mheshimiwa Misha natoka, wavuvi walikoni wakati Dongo Kundu ilikuwa inachimbwa, hata ile terminal mpya ya bandari sahihi, wavuvi wengi walipoteza mapato ya kiuchumi, kwa sababu mchanga ule uliotolewa pale ulitupwa mahali ambao wavuvi wanavua. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, sijui kama unajua njia ya uzazi wa samaki. Wasamaki wanazaa kwenye mapango kule baharini. Sasa mara tu utakuta mchanga kiwango kikubwa kimekuja ikafinika maeneo ya uzazi wa samaki. So inapunguza sana. Sasa Mheshimiwa Mishi, mimi nataka nikuhakikishie, lazima tuweke mikakati kabambe ya kueleweka na tutathmini hali halisi kabla tukubali mambo ambayo yataumiza Wakenya kiuchumi. Na tena sio Mombasa peke yake. Lamu, ziwa la Victoria, ziwa la Turkana, Nakuru, Naivasha na kwengineo. Kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, mambo haya yanachangia pakubwa katika uchumi wa nchi yetu, kiutalii, kiuchukuzi, kimaisha kwa jumla. La mwisho, Mr. Speaker, Alamishi alisema mambo ya mipaka na akasema mambo ya Tanzania na Kenya na Kenya na Uganda Migingo. Mheshimiwa, mimi naonelea hivi, nchi hii, serikali hii, kwa in the spirits of East Africanism, yani kwa ushirikiano in that spirit, ile ya umoja wa East African, lazima tuzungumze mambo ya mipaka kikamilifu. Kwa sababu mimi nilikuwa mbunge katika bunge la 10, Migingo imekuwa ikizungumza. Mpaka leo tutazungumza Migingo. Mheshimiwa Spika, nakumbuka ulivyokuwa waziri wa mambo ya nje ama kigeni, mambo ya nje. Mheshimiwa Daud anichanganya kidogo, sema kigeni. Mambo ya nje, ulikuwa unapambana na mambo ya mipaka ya baharini. Na nakumbuka tulisongeza zaidi ya nautical mile 300 na almost.
Tulipima na tukazongesha kutoka mile 200 mpaka 450, na hizo stakabadhi nikazipeleka kwa Umoja wa Mataifa.
Sasa,
New York.
Sasa Mheshimiwa, mimi maoni yangu ni kwamba kama nchi ni muhimu tuzungumze kikamilifu mambo ya mipaka. Migingo, Tanzania, Somalia, Uganda, na popote pale ambapo panatuhusu mambo ya mipaka. Ni muhimu, na umuhimu wake uko wapi? Hiyo utalinda haki za Wakenya wa siku za usoni. Hasa ukisikia kwamba kuna madini, kuna rasilimali, conflict inaanza. So Mheshimiwa Speaker, tutaka tufanye namna hiyo. Mheshimiwa Mukami, you cannot, if you are government or in government, you cannot ignore a sector that employs 140,000 Kenyans. You cannot. That requires us to quickly develop a strategy on how we will sustain them. Those are the people that probably are looking upon us to deliver help. So what do? We need to come up with an actionable strategy on cushioning them, training them, like I said earlier, and creating market for them. So I will work closely. First of all, I will go to them. Mr. Speaker, if this House approves me, the entire first month, I will listen. I will go to every area to listen to the views, to the challenges, and also probably they have and they identify and they know the areas of potential. So I will listen. Once I listen and gather actual data and information, we will develop together with this House a clear action plan to cushion and grow the numbers, because 140, in my opinion, hasn't even met the potential. It can be greater than that. Mr. Speaker, Caleb Amisi asked on marine utilization, sustainability. Number one, I don't think we've even tapped the potential. We've just probably, it's just a scratch on the earth or on the surface. The potential in the maritime utilization is great. But there may be some predicament, Mr. Speaker. And at this point, I want to tell Honorable Caleb, we would work with you at the committee level, but also work with possibly the Attorney General, because we need to develop a clear legal strategy on how we can relook, for example, at the treaties and the conventions and the licenses and the agreements that this country has gotten into. I say this why. Caleb, are you aware that the Kenyan coast is an important corridor for tuna, yellowfin tuna? It is. Are you also aware that our allocation for yellowfin tuna, our quota for yellowfin tuna is 3,000 tons, yet the EU has 76,000. So there are great legal issues, but we must get into them. And therefore, we may need to develop a strategy between this Honorable House, possibly the Attorney General, because there'll certainly be a lot of litigation issues. And therefore, if we do the strategy well, we should be able to address those issues and ensure that, that what is for Kenya remain, what is for Kenyans remain for them. Finally, you asked me if I am going to be, my friend, Caleb, I'm that one that you're looking for. Let me assure you, I'm an action man. Me, I don't like sitting on the desk 24 hours. I must be on the ground. I must understand what people are saying. I must engage them. So for me, I have a plan. This country needs to push mining to contribute more into the economy. This country needs to create employment to the young people. This country needs to involve the young people in decision making and ensure they participate in every process and they feel that this government is theirs. So that cannot be achieved sitting in some office somewhere. We have to be on the ground. So I assure you, I will hit the ground running.
Yes, Mary. Go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Nominee, yesterday I raised a concern to the outgoing Minister for Mining, and I think it's important that I seek clarification from you, if approved, because you're going to be the person on the seat. There is mining happening at the border of Kenya and Uganda at a place called Amoni in Alupe. The mining is right at the border, and yesterday the CS confirmed that Samata they took up, they visited, and they confirmed and that they have stopped. They're engaging with the neighboring country. What are you going to do about it? And I'm very happy I've heard you saying you will give priority to issues, you will start working, you will not be in the office. And one Kenyan has asked the same question and also has asked about Migingo, but you've already addressed the Migingo. Just tell me about the Amoni. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Chairman, a rejoinder on the same, just that, a rejoinder. Mr. Nominee, there's a whole issue in this country about speculation. You know, people assuming this county has this county has that, this region has that. I would like to know whether you would ensure there is a transparent Kenya mineral audit that will allow Kenyans to know what minerals are where and who has mining rights. Because this, especially where I come from the north, The cattle rustling has changed. It's not about cows. It's about land. And there are Kenyans who feel that West Pokot has a certain mineral, Samburu North, Baragoi has a certain mineral, and that is why there's perpetual conflict in those regions, and there are people arming Kenyans in those regions so that there is no peace, so that later in future people will move from that land, and then people are going to come and get the minerals out. It's just like oil. In countries where there's oil, there's conflict, perpetual conflict. And so that's, you know, not having a clarity on where we have minerals in this country breeds that speculation and brings conflict. Asante.
Jeanette, I saw you gesturing like you wanted to have...
I wanted to ask him something, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the nominee, you see why we are here today, Mr. Speaker, vetting the second batch of ministers in the halfway, midway of a term of an election. Mr. Speaker, is because of things that Kenyans have complained about. And some of the things Kenyans have complained about is about opulency, arrogancy, and show off. The nominee is somebody known to me very well, Mr. Speaker. I must share with the committee that. And he's somebody whose God has blessed him as a family and as a person. He's a man who loves fine things of the world. Now you are becoming a CS. What are you going to do?
God's blessings are not limited to people who love fine things of the world.
Yes, but for him, that's how he has enjoyed it.
Yes.
That's what he has enjoyed. So now you are going to become a public servant at very high level. How are you going to define that line of your private life and your public life? Because Kenyans don't want any opulence at the level of the job that you are being interviewed for here.
Thank you, Mr. May I?
Kenyans are not against opulence, they are against show-offs.
Show-offs, yes.
Yes, show-offs. Yes. Yes, George?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mining research is not quite prominent in the country, but I'm now informed that some universities have actually started offering courses in mining, and they're doing lots and lots of research. My own university, Tharaka, is doing it. Confirm that if this committee, if the House approves you and confirms you, you will actually collaborate with the various universities in the country so that we have better research and better studies, including absorbing those who are studying mining, so that we have local experts. We don't have these foreigners coming from all over pretending to be the experts and cutting away our minerals.
Running out of time, but Kosing?
Mr. Speaker, just one thing, Mr. Speaker, I forgot. Also about fishermen who are being arrested in Lake Victoria, going to Uganda, by Ugandan government. What are you going to do about it? They are suffering. Last time, he has answered.
He answered that. Posing?
I can bring mine later.
Pardon? He will not come back?
No, not.
Pardon?
It's not for him.
Okay, it's not for him?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Honorable Speaker.
Nominee, can I beseech members we stop here? We have 4 others waiting. If it's burning, Rahab, I'll give you. If you're asking about your question, it was answered when you are out.
It's not about my question. I was just asking about the gender imbalancing in the fishing industry. What he'll do so that women can be involved.
He said that thousands of women handling fish when it lands on the beaches. I thought? Yes. Pardon? But take the question and answer the honorable member about gender parity in the industry.
Okay. So, Mr. Speaker, the first issue was by Honorable Mesa on some mining that around the border area that is contested. What I want to tell you is that I've also heard about the same issue, for example, in Moyale County. And I am going to work with members of parliament, governors, very closely to ensure what rightfully belongs to Kenya stays in Kenya. And that opportunity is secured for and on behalf of the people of Kenya. So we'll work very well together. That assurance government is about continuity, and what Mvurya committed, I will take on and move forward with you.
Answer the remaining questions in 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker.
From Naisula and Junet.
If you could allow me, maybe just from what Junet said, on your declaration of net worth, I see you have valuables and jewelry of a good amount. Maybe you could tell us, amongst those in relation to what Junet was asking about opulence, the show of opulence, as the speaker put it. And I know you've been very active on TikTok. Can you assure the people of Kenya that these valuables and jewelry here will not be part of the things that they will see on TikTok? Because I think that is what annoys Kenyans when they see. And because you are coming into public office, just to be sensitive that Kenyans, as much as you have declared it here, may not want to see those things.
Mr. Speaker, I think what my brother Kimani Ichung'wah is trying to say is referring to what they will see. I'm actually focused on what they've already seen, because it's been there. But what I want to assure this honorable committee, I appreciate certain factors of life. And you must have a balance. You must have a balance. When you're serving the people, you must, first of all, make them feel comfortable. You must make them feel you're one of them. So opulence for me, no. When I am working, I am working. When I'm enjoying myself in my own setup at home, that's fine. That's another story. But when I'm going to the Kenyan people, my dedication is to work for them. And my experience, Mr. Speaker, tells it. I have, thank God, been elected 3 times. 3 times. And I thank God also, for example, you asked of the valuables, jewelries. Largely, I'm talking about watches. And I've been wearing even before I became member of parliament, long before. But I know how to balance. I don't have to wear it so I can show off. For what? What value will it give to anybody? So I enjoy wearing it. Even this morning I was debating, should I wear a watch? Shall I not? Really, and it was a big debate there at home. I said, nitaficha tu kwa hii. I don't have to show it off. I'm sure it is only now you are realizing I was wearing a watch. So show off for me there's no way I'm going to show off, Mr. Speaker. That I can assure you. Mheshimiwa Naisula. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, on the question of Mheshimiwa Naisula, on matters speculation, that must be addressed, and urgently, because it denies Kenya an opportunity.
You largely touched on it.
Yes, but I want to talk about one important thing, and I see a great opportunity. I think Mheshimiwa Waigara, you asked on Murigara. Sorry.
Murugara.
Murigara. George, Sir George, on your question on training for mining, how do we achieve, for example, how do we attain 10% contribution GDP? We must do what other countries did, train our people. There's also an opportunity. If you went to some countries, you will see a mining bank, a bank that focuses only on mining. Yes. So for us to achieve all that, real work must be done. And I want to assure you, it begins with capacity building. We must train the people. So, Mr. Speaker, on Junet, it's again opulence and show off banner. I don't need to show off. What you have, you have. What you don't, you don't. And you should be cautious of others. You should be cautious of others.
We should end there. Showing off actually is a sign of inferiority complex.
But I wanted to end with the one comment on Junet. I heard him yesterday say something. I heard him say that being rich is not a crime. And also I heard him say, I don't know whether Kimani Ichung'wah shared his audited account. I heard him say Kimani Ichung'wah is worth 5 billion shillings. So, brother...
Kimani contested that he had understated
that's what I heard yesterday.
Yes.
I mean, I saw it on TV somewhere. So I end here, Mr. Speaker. So I had a formal, like a point plan, Mr. Speaker.
But Speaker, you must tell the nominee, just like him, I don't show off.
In fact, nobody can tell that you are worth anything.
Mr. Speaker, and that must be the culture in Kikuyu constituency.
Nominee, we are coming to an end. Naisula has asked me to remind you to respond to the issue of your public statement never to talk to your appointing authority. Although I told you that
It's okay, Mr.
only
Speaker.
fools don't change their mind, but in Naisula I would want the public to hear from you.
Sasa, Naisula, do you want to repeat the statement for me? Hatuwezi ongea? How?
Let me say this.
I understand.
No, but let me say this for clarity, Chairman. You know, apart from asking questions during vetting for competence, what you understand about mining and all, we also vet the temperament of a nominee, the same way you've been asked about lifestyle. It's neither here or there, really. But even temperament of a nominee is very important because it shows your leadership skills. Initially you thought this, and now you're here. There's really nothing wrong with answering how you're going to relate with His Excellency the President when you're working.
Excellent.
So, Mr. Speaker, if I may quote, the statement went like, mimi niongee na Ruto nini? Mimi niende wapi na Ruto? Mr. Speaker, hakuna mtu ameeleza vizuri kukuliko. Mpumbavu peke yake ndo abadilishe mawazo. Mtu mpumbavu. Pili, hii ni clarion call to serve the country. I have been a great critic of this government, like others I did before. Now I've been given an opportunity. An opportunity has been availed to me to come and create that difference that I've been talking about all this time. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. Bring new energy, new ideology, new thinking, because after all of us are serving one nation, one people.
Well put.
That will do. Other members, now nominee, we are coming to an end. Most of the people, members of the public sending in questions, all oscillate around what will you do to create safety in the mines? What will you do to protect the population from disused mines? What will you do to protect our fishermen from harassment by neighbors? What will you do to make it safe for our fishermen to handle their produce or their products when they come back? And what will you do to make mining part of the central core of Kenya's economy? These are all things we have talked about, but the public would want to hear that we brought to you what they wanted. There is one man from Kwale who says, uliza waziri mteule, ngoja kidogo, ataweka mikakati gani kuhakikisha kituo cha mafunzo cha uchumi zamawati kilichoko wadi ya Ngomeni, kaunti ya Kwale, kinakamilika kwa muda unaofaa. I think the next, I'll still ask you say one or two things. We want you to assure Kenyans, nominee, that if you find favor and you are appointed the minister, within what period will you be able to make Kenyans feel the benefits and the contribution of mining to our economy? We are a major agricultural country. So is a country like the US. But in the US, agriculture contributes only 1% to their GDP. In Kenya, it is the complete opposite. And they do that because they are in manufacturing, in mining, value addition, and all those good economic activities. Secondly, ensure that Kenyans participate in this exciting new economic venture. Assure Kenyans that you are not going to be, if approved, to be working for international conglomerates to come to Kenya, appear to be generating economic activities but taking away all our wealth. We want to see mining being part of the central feature of our economy. Thirdly and lastly, for the seafarers and those who are now going to work on international ships, you may consider, because most of those seafarers will work in ships of major shipping and maritime countries: Korea, China, Spain, and others. You may consider, and Germany you talked earlier, to introduce basic language courses at our college in Mombasa in these languages, so that when they graduate, they have a basic knowledge of German, of Korean, or Chinese, or Mandarin, or whatever. Thirdly and lastly, you may also consider sometimes if a seafarer goes to a Spanish shipping line and produces a certificate that's a collaboration between our college and some college in Spain, it gives confidence to those who are employing. So you may consider partnering our institution with as many other institutions worldwide as possible to ease the process of our youths getting certificates and being considered for employment. Finish those, then I come to...
Can I say one from a Kenyan speaker?
Oh, there is, okay,
one
yes.
from Kenyan.
Yes.
From West Pokot.
West Pokot.
Yes, he's saying, don't forget to tell Joho, this is a guy of late 30s, he's working and he's in school. He just finished Form 4 the other day and got a D+. So he's saying, don't forget to tell Joho your motivation to many of us, like me in West Pokot, to pursue my education studies.
Yes, before you answer, there is also somebody who said, I am really shocked that Governor Joho has 2 degrees. Kenyans know he has never been to school. This is some lady from somewhere. Now go on and answer.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing she didn't write is that I'm an alumni of Harvard University. And I'm grateful that we could inspire someone. And this is a message I want to tell the young people of this country. Please never lose hope. Never give up. There is always a way out. It requires determination, focus, commitment.
Answer those now.
And a little bit of support. I'm just saying that because I felt encouraged that someone may take a path of changing his life. Mr. Speaker, I began by saying we need to relook at the architecture of our training programs. Do they conform to the needs? How do we tap in? How is it that we, first of all, are only tapping into just under 0.2% of the demand? So we will probably redesign the entire training program. And then, Mr. Speaker, I couldn't agree more. The urgent need of collaboration between teaching institutions. We will begin by pursuing partnership between the local universities and the government institutions, and also will encourage that we have an international conversation of getting more affiliate universities to join in. Mr. Speaker, the young brother from Kwale said that there's an institution that is to be completed at Wa Ward in Kwale. I have been to Nomine I know Nomine well. I've been there, and I want to assure him that I will go. For me, I will visit them, and I'll make sure that the projects that have begun come to a conclusion. And then, Mr. Speaker, we talked about what else? Kenyans participating in mining. Mr. Speaker, let me just say this. In Mombasa, when there was a debate on concessions, for example, I heard Kenyans saying one thing. If government wants to raise money, tell us. We can come together, 5 of us, 10 of us, and create good equity, good capital, in billions. There is that capacity. We know people that are having billions of shillings in banks. What may be the problem? Maybe they don't have the information of what the country holds. Maybe they've never understood the potential. So it will be my responsibility to pass knowledge to Kenyan people of what we have and where the opportunities may be. Some mining operations is not very expensive, Mr. Speaker. It's not excavator, 1 or 2, 3, 4 trucks. Kenyans can do that, and I will encourage them. But I think the disconnect here is they do not know. It is all speculative. Everybody is just speculating. We have lithium here, we have copper there, we have gold here, we have coal here. So we will ensure that we pass on the information so that Kenyan people can participate. Finally, Mr. Speaker, you talked about our economy being driven by agriculture. Let me assure you, if approved, the journey we will embark on immediately is to turn that around so that agriculture grows, mining either catches up or surpasses even agriculture. It is there in other countries. So you can't depend on one sector we have depended really on agriculture for far too long. It's time we diversify. I thank you. Mr. Speaker, I was going to answer something.
We'll get there. Of the many nominee memoranda we received, you answered all of them adequately except these 2. A nominee, a Kenyan by the name Vincent Kipkurui-Sang. I mentioned the name because it is part of the documentation. The nominee's family farm has been implicated in shillings 5.9 billion grain facility case at Mombasa Port. That one you didn't respond to. So if you have a response so that we complete the record. And the next one is there is an organization called Haki Yetu in Mombasa. I believe you probably know it. They say they went to court, obtained a court order for you to avail some documents to them, served you with the order, and you refused to give them the documents. And this was in relation to affordable housing.
Okay.
Those 2.
Mr. Speaker,
you answered everything correctly and satisfactorily. You can respond to those 2 to complete our record.
Mr. Speaker, I know the organization really well, Haki Yetu. I haven't checked, but I suspect that letter is signed by someone called Maimuna. Is it? Huh?
Correct.
Correct, right? Mr. Speaker, there's a tendency that...
Munira Ali Omar.
Munira Omar, I know, and of course my great friend Father Dolan is doing quite some good work. But number one, I've never seen or received any orders that compels me to give information. 2, I believe public information should not necessarily be accessed through court processes. Someone should be able to walk into government office and get information. Number 1,
Article 35 of the Constitution.
So I have not received any orders, but my current governor would, I'm sure, I'll place a call to him. He'll be happy to share the information.
Grain bulk?
Grain bulk, Mheshimiwa, sorry, Honorable Speaker. I said earlier
It's not grain bulk, it's grain facility. I'm sorry.
I understand.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, my family, like I said earlier, is in the business of logistics. So what my family wants to do as a business or plans to do is to build on our land, on our own family land, a grain handling facility. For far too long, there's just been one. So there's been a monopoly of grain handling in Kenya. So we've been pursuing this venture of building another, as a family, nothing to do with government. Mheshimiwa, so that, Honorable Speaker, so that I come out clear, there's not a penny government is putting. There is nothing government is doing in that project. It's private equity project, sitting on private land. The only thing that that setup would do is get a license on whale leave so that they can get access to remove the grain from the vessel onto the facility. So we did not lose, as a family, 5.9 billion contract. We are actually going to inject 5.9 billion investment into the economy.
Before I give you to say what you want to say as you exit, have you ever been adversely mentioned in any integrity-related report?
Not that I know of.
Do you hold any leadership position in any political party? In your self-declaration, you say you are the deputy party leader of Orange Democratic Party.
That I resigned. I remain only a member of the party. I don't hold any leadership position.
What is your net worth?
My net worth is, let me just be sure. Where is that document? Where is it?
Is on pay. Your assistant should be assisting you on this.
I'll just use this one. I found it. Okay. Mr. Speaker, my net worth is 2,361,332,249.
Made out?
Largely by developed and undeveloped properties, which include my homes in Mombasa, Vipingo, Nairobi, and Malindi. Shareholding in some property holdings. Shareholding in family businesses. Valuables, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah referred to them as jewelry, but it's just basically watches, and cash at bank.
Okay. We have checked your documents against what we have, and we have found them in order. And also you did respond to more than we received 74 memoranda on you. You responded to all of them except the 2 that you have now responded to. Now you can have 1
Mr.
minute.
Speaker,
yes.
Before he concludes on the net worth, it would be good, and this is in his interest, because he has severally referred to family businesses. This net worth is Ali Hassan Joho, not the family.
This is just my shares. Family is definitely
much more.
I wish it was my own wealth. For a moment, Mr. Speaker, I wish it was my wealth, but that is now my share.
Yes, so go ahead and say what you wanted to say so that we go to the next nominee.
Mr. Speaker, while I was preparing myself, I came with an idea of developing a 10-point plan that I think would be useful to enhance how we can quickly grow this industry, because it is a powerful industry in our economy that is untapped, and employment. So I came, number 1, complete digitization of the ministry processes. Number 2, stakeholders' involvement and public participation. Number 3, blue economy regulatory framework. Number 4, an urgent review of the Mining Act to conform into the demands of the moment and secure Kenyans. Number 5, enhanced community development agreements. Number 6, international maritime organizations representation, capacity building for deep sea fishing. Number 8, improved licensing processes. Number 9, sustainability standards and certification. And finally, encouraging public-private participation. I thank you.
Those are your KPIs, key performance indicators.
And I thought I should share them.
We have come to an end in you, and you are now released unless you are lawfully held here. Take your documents with you. Sergeant, can you escort the nominee out of the chamber? Have a good day. Honorable members, 10 minutes for preparation for the next nominee. Yes, yes, absolutely.